Episode of the 1420 Sports Podcast. For beer with a sports talk and a whole lot more. Brought to you by our friends at Bud Light, the beer that never fills you up and will never let you down. I'm your host, Brent Redlinski, recording via Zoom tonight with the always smiling, always chipper Dave Van Robies in blustery Southern Alberta. Sports aren't always about rainbows, unicorns, and wins and losses. There's been a fair share of tragedies in the sporting world as well. We'll discuss how these can affect a fan base. The service time situation in baseball hits every big league team every year. Is this a way of owners protecting themselves from each other or a way of keeping players down? Comparing players of the past to present-day athletes is as old as the game themselves. And comparing teams is too. We'll chat some dream matchups of teams of the past. Spring training games begin this weekend, so I'll have some questions for Dave that could easily be questions while you're sitting in the stands watching the game. So sit back, grab a beer, and let's get into it. All right, I had a few some negative feedback from the family members who are supposed to be reported or supportive no matter what we do here in the 1420 Sports Podcast of the AM radio sound and everything else. So we actually sat down and figured this out once and for all, the how to get the sound proper and how to do it. We got to the Zoom world without any recording or speakers, and hopefully this episode is much better than the last one. Dave and I were both getting frustrated with how it was sounding, and so for that we apologize. But from here on in, we hope to make things better. Dave, how do I sound? And I know we were talking earlier on. You sound better than ever, my friend.
Well, time will tell, but you know. The sound issue frustrated me. Like I don't listen to all our podcasts. But I do check it for sound quality, and that last one did suck a little bit of ass. It's frustrating. And we're old. We're not tech savvy. We gotta be shown how to do this, and I hope this is the answer going forward.
Before we move on to the nuts and bolts of this show, Dave, are we old, stubborn, or stubborn?
No, I'm more old than stubborn. Like, cause I want to know how to do it, but yeah, it's tough. Like, I'll put it this way: when I was a kid, I always hooked up the family stereo.
Yeah, I don't. We talked about this back, like actually when before a few years back in Medicine Hat here at the old Yankee Tavern, I actually hired Geek Squad. I gave the guy dough. He come hooked up speakers, televisions, good. Here's $200, whatever it was. He took care of it, and it was a blessing because it'd still be sitting there, and I even though I moved away. Anyways, we'll get into it. I started with the Dellin Betances for the number 68 New York Yankees reliever with the Mets now. Who's in number 68? And I didn't even think of it. Maybe my mind's wandering a little bit, but there's one number 68 in the world that we should have been thinking about, Dave. And who's that?
Well, it has to be the most famous Czech NHLer, KHLer, whatever. Just pay me and I'll play the game, Jaromir Jagr.
Yeah, Yags was great. He's still playing over in the KHL or some league over there. Just got nothing better to do. He's got no more money he'll ever spend. Yags is I know the guy that I'm calling him Yags. He one of a kind. A few years back, a nefarious story where he got caught in a threesome with a family, and they tried to not a family with a couple, and they tried to extort him for cash, and they're going to release a video. He said, "Release the video. I don't care. I'm Jaromir Jagr." Like it's a great story.
Yeah, it is. It's just like I've been a bachelor my whole life. I'm still living the life. And
yeah, put the video out there, but get me a few more Tinder hits or whatever. Who knows?
And what's great about him too, like there's stories about him. Like he wasn't a really good practice player or anything, but he always had the keys to the rink, and he'd come because he was a bachelor. He'd live close to the rink, and he'd do his own thing for 2-3 hours at 4 a.m. because that's when he wanted to work on his game. And you can't have this kind of career and be that kind of goal scorer without working on your game.
That's right. Jagr, he's definitely a Hall of Famer. If he ever retires, I don't know how that works. He might. They might put him in. Be the first guy to be playing when they put him in the Hall of Fame. Yags was, great NHLer. Stuck around maybe a little too long when he ended up in Calgary and everything else, but who cares? He's without, here's a quick question. Why don't we stick this? Yeah, they had Lemieux, but do they win Stanley Cups without Jagger back then? I know it's a team effort. Is that just added to that guaranteed Stanley Cups for like how much money did Lemieux make because Jagger was there?
Well, it helps a ton, right? And we could say, like a team that has a bit of a run has two dominant centers that they can roll with and a good goalie, right? And then so the Penguins, like with Malkin and Crosby, they're always going to be a threat, and they keep finding better goalies too. See, if Edmonton could ever find some help, Draisaitl and McDavid, same. They just need the goalie. They need one more piece.
And then you throw Ronnie Francis into that thing back in there with the Pittsburgh Penguins. Those teams were something else. Anyways, get on to tonight's show. Friend of mine, Dean, he's a listener from day one back in August there, which seems like a lifetime ago. He just recently came up with a topic for us, which is greatly appreciated because sometimes my coconut gets stretched to the outer limits. Sports tragedies. He brought some players up that passed away in the prime of their careers or before their careers started, and we'll get to those in a second. But there's been some tragic things that have happened, not just with teams, but in athletic events over the years. One, and I don't want to say the Boston Marathon. It's a tragedy and a sporting event, but the athletes weren't part of it. So I'm not downplaying it, but the athletes weren't part of the tragedy. I want to look at things more like the Marshall plane crash, things like that, Dave. Could you think of some sports tragedies that have occurred that could really send a franchise into 10, 15 years into the past?
Oh, well, yeah, that's not exactly how it was worded to me in pregame.
Okay. Go ahead. Yeah, you want.
Well, the one I think, well, if you can measure it, but it's Roberto Clemente.
Yeah.
Yeah, he got his 3,000 hits, and he died doing relief missions in Puerto Rico or the Dominican or something like that in a plane crash. Like Roberto Clemente, like look him up, like his exploits on the field and how good of a man he was, and dying trying to help others in the off season. I think it's great. Wow. Sorry, great's a terrible word to use there, but.
Well, that's the thing. He was still kind of in the prime of his career and playing it all, and they've named awards after the guy. Clemente's definitely a tragedy. Pittsburgh Pirates, and they went on to win some World Series in the 70s after him. Clemente, the humanitarian award, he passed away doing humanitarianism. It was something else. A guy that I remember exactly where I was when the news came about, and I think it was, and I should have looked it up. But I think it was 85, but I remember it was Remembrance Day. We don't need to, well, we'll talk about it. Why not? No one listens anyways. The Pelle Lindbergh passing away he crashed his Porsche into a brick wall in his home. I think he lived in New Jersey, playing for the Flyers, alcohol in his system, 3 a.m, 4 a.m, whatever it was. The Flyers have never had a goalie. I mean, Hexie was good, but Lindbergh was the guy that might have pushed them past the Oilers back in the 80s. A couple of times they met in the finals. Lindbergh was supposed to be the guy, and they've never really recuperated in net since. I shouldn't say since then, because they've had great goaltenders. But that set that franchise back a little bit, because they were building a franchise around their defensive corps, and then their forward, and then they found the goalie finally, and he tragically got in a car accident drinking and driving one November evening, and I think it was 85.
Yeah, that sounds about right. I was like, I remember seeing the pictures. I remember it. excuse me. But I don't think it really put him back because the Flyers were in the cup like the next year with Ron Hextall.
Yeah.
And who's to say? And who's to say? Like I don't think that set the franchise back because they clearly had someone else.
Well, Hexy ended up winning the Conn Smythe. He's one of the only player on a losing team to win a Conn Smythe too, I guess, right? So that says something. That's hard to do, to be the MVP of a playoff series and still win but lose the championship. That's would hockey be the only sport that could do that?
Without a doubt, because J.S. Giguère did it as well.
Yeah.
I believe the Devils beat the Ducks.
Like you'll never
With
see a Super
Babcock
Bowl
coaching
MVP with a losing team.
Never. Or baseball or basketball.
You wouldn't see baseball. Let's say if a guy
Never.
if a series went 7, this is off topic completely, but if a series went 7 games, pitcher won game 4, then got the save in game 6 to take it back home for game 7.
Or what about if someone on the losing team just rates like 500 with like just ridiculous offensive numbers, but he was the only guy and his team lost a couple games 2-1. But one game's 11.
No matter how many World Series that Ricky Henderson played in, he should have been the MVP. Because guaranteed he was the best.
He was the best player on the field.
There's no getting around.
Ain't no doubt.
There's no getting around.
Like how did Pat Borders win an MVP with Ricky on the field?
Rick's on the field, I don't understand it. Like Ricky may have been the LBS, Rick should have been the MVP. I don't know. We got to rename the podcast the Ricky Anderson podcast.
We're not that good yet.
Not yet. One day. Now that it sounds better, there's no holding us back. Another one that brings to mind, and they made a movie about it. And Dave, I'm going to ask you a question. If you're on that plane crash and it was a movie Alive, it came down to eating some thighs, and I'm not talking chicken, to keep yourself going. Would you do that, or what's your take on that?
I never want to be put in that position.
Well, it's a simple. I know you wouldn't. No, they didn't want to either. But would you, if you got to eat some thigh, would you?
Yeah, probably.
Yeah,
probably. I'd be like what else? Like what else? They're dead. And I don't know what else to do. And we're trying. It's not like we're just sitting here roasting, waiting for a plane. Like it's dire.
Yeah, that's true. One more. It's a couple I want to touch on, but one more that might have not changed the franchise, but may have changed a hockey player. 2004, I think it was. Danny Heatley was in that car accident with his teammate playing for the Atlanta Thrashers. Dan Schneider passed away in a car crash. They're coming back from a team event. They weren't drinking and driving, just going too fast. It wasn't Heatley's not to blame. Yes, he was driving, but there was no criminal charges laid. What do you think? I mean, it's all speculation. And Heatley was supposed to be not an all-time great, but that had to affect his career because he didn't have quite the career that he was supposed to.
Yeah, like, and who am I? I'm not. I feel uncomfortable even commenting. I couldn't imagine how tough it was on him. He still scored a shit ton of goals.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm not gonna speculate or weigh in on that at all. It's a tragedy, and I couldn't imagine the weight that Heatley has to carry with him for that.
Like, it would have been like like, no matter what said going into, like, I've been in many locker rooms back years and years ago. Going into a locker room would have been tough. I couldn't imagine trying to explain to your teammates what happened and being forthright. Okay, here's what happened, man. Like seriously, and the teammates are consoling, but there's always some guy talking out of the side of his mouth. It would have been really uncomfortable, really tough to do. I can't imagine that kind of strain for both families and the entire organization. How you would finagle that? It's just
An absolute tragedy. Yeah,
especially for a young franchise as they were. Talk about another one that doesn't get talked about enough, and you're an Olympics guy. The Munich massacre, 11 people got slaughtered. Olympics, and how it doesn't happen more. I know security is better than it's ever been and everything else. How it doesn't happen more is kind of a mystery to me, that there isn't more terrorism and everything else, because I'm not saying it'd be easy, but that would be a prime target for anything to happen.
Well, you're right, but you're also right about the security and how good it is now. And like I went to events in Vancouver in 2010, and the security, it was to get the perimeter, and there was a pretty like it's securing the perimeter. Like, cause like when we went to hockey games, you were a long ways away from the rink. And then you had to do airport security. Like you had to clear, you got pat downs, and they checked all your bags, and then you were fine. And then whatever, it's a big perimeter. That Munich stuff, I've watched more than one documentary on it, because that was a bit of a fascinating story for me. And then why the Olympics? I do think it's probably less and less all the time now. I do think the Olympics do hold a little bit of prestige to the terrorist wing, but like even now, like security's so good.
Yeah. Well, I remember that those same Olympics in Vancouver you're talking about. My sister lives on Vancouver Island, and when you jump on float planes to go from Vancouver Harbor over to the island, it's a free for all. You just get on a plane, whatever. But
it's like boarding a bus. Yeah.
It's actually even more lax than that. Drink some beers, get on, whatever. And then, but it was when the Olympics were on, they actually had the same security set up, because you could grab a little puddle jumper and fly it into wherever you wanted. It was quite astonishing for Harbor Air to have that. It was been flying it for years, and it was strange.
I have one more tragedy though.
Yep, go nuts.
Lenny Bias in the Boston Celtics.
I had that on the list. I'm glad you brought that one up, because I remember watching, because I used to be an NCAA dork back in the 90s and watch the tournament all the time. And Len Bias, just that was a tragedy.
And that would have been like 86.
That team was supposed to do some damage.
The Celtics, what, second overall pick?
Yeah, heart blew up, and it's awful the way it turned out, and that was an absolute tragedy to the sports world, and it opened a lot of eyes of what goes on behind closed doors a little bit. And so maybe it was a good thing, but obviously a bad thing, but maybe that opened some eyes that hey, these guys aren't angels, and we maybe gotta check things out a little bit. Lenny Bias, absolutely. Was he going to be the next Jordan? Probably not, but he had a long career ahead of him, and he probably would have made a lot of money in the process.
Yeah, without a doubt.
Yeah.
And then there's one more. Remember Hank Gathers?
Same kind of ordeal, if I recall.
No, yeah, he had a heart attack on the court, Loyola Marymount.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah. And then Bo, what was his team? Bo Gamble, something like that.
That rings a bell. Yeah, we don't. Once again, we got away from checking facts and names in the 1420 podcast.
But it was Loyola Marymount.
It was Loyola Marymount for sure, but it was yeah. No,
and they've scored like 140 points a game. That was just, they were the running gunners.
They flew. The basketball was different when guys would stick around for 3 and 4 years, and made basketball what it was back in the late 80s, early 90s for sure. We'll get on to some lighter subjects, but just something I wanted to talk about, the guys that get forgotten about, the tragedies that happen. It puts things in perspective a little bit, that life isn't about wins and losses in the sports world. These are actual human beings that that put themselves out there in front of us on a nightly basis. And we appreciate them, but that some guys get forgotten when they're gone a lot, and some guys that could have been somebody, and they're forgotten about a lot, and it's sad. Anyways, we'll get on to another subject. I want to once again apologize to everybody for the sound quality. I think we've solved that little problem while the COVID times are on. Can't wait to have Dave back down the tavern again one day. It's coming soon, I think. I don't know. I quit watching the Alberta Health Services and what we're allowed and not allowed to do because it doesn't make any sense, but we won't get into that. When we're allowed to do it, we'll do it. But until then, make sure you guys listen to us on Podbean, Apple Podcasts, iHeartRadio, Spotify, iTunes, all the stuff, because we really appreciate it. We're pushing towards the 5,000 mark as we speak. So thank you very much. Sometime over last weekend, the general manager, president, whoever, the Seattle Mariners, that's how relevant they are in the baseball world, made some disparaging comments about the baseball world and how it all worked at a Rotary meeting in Seattle. Most importantly, he was that really got the ire of the Major League Baseball Players Association, which I don't think, we'll get to that in a second, I don't think that got the Players Association that riled up because they knew what was going on all this time, but we'll get that in a second. But that got him some trouble. He quit shortly after it went viral, I guess, and called her good. Service time has been a big problem in baseball. It's a 7-year deal, X amount of games you got to play a year, and if you're in the minors, you don't get a year of service time. And the Cubs did it with Chris Bryant when he was clearly good enough to play in the major leagues. Sat him down for the first 20 games, I think it was. The Jays did it a couple years back with Vladdy Guerrero. It's wrong on so many levels that guys can do it. I get it why teams do it, because it's in the rules, so they can do it. I understand it. But Dave, is that agreement that's in place for service time, is it a handshake, wink, wink, nod, nod between the owners and the really good players to make sure the really good players can get paid?
I have literally no problem with it at all. Like to withhold that's just prudent management. Like I would want my team to do that, because if your team's any good, like this guy that you're waiting on for the first 20 games of the year, he hits full stride, and then there's the bump you need. And when Bryant came, like that was that his rookie year where they won it, or was it the year after that?
It was his second year, but yeah.
But like, so honestly, like, why not hold a guy that, because then you have another young player one more year at the ass end. And as a fan, I am all for it. All for it. And if it's that big of a problem, then that's going to be obviously an issue for the MLBPA, right?
Well, that's what I'm getting at. What if your team is on not the brink of, but they don't have to suck, and if you can be a 86 and 76 team instead of 76 and 86, like with what the Jays had. I'm not saying, like, I'm just going to use them as an example because their players are relevant here in Canada a lot. We see them on TV. Like Bichette didn't come up. Guerrero got sent down when they had really no one to replace him. Wouldn't you rather, as a fan, you're like, not every team has World Series aspirations, but every team should have, hey, we're pretty good aspirations. And I shouldn't be forced to watch a team that's going to lose 106 games when I have a guy in the minors that should be up, but we want to save him for 5-6 more years at a lower rate.
Absolutely disagree once again, because then when these players are that 3 years down the road, then the team has some extra money 2 years down the road to pay for that closer. Like there's always a free agent guy that makes a difference on a run. There's always a free agent guy. And I want my team, if they're gonna nut up and make a run for it, I want them to have as much flexibility as they can to get a stud.
Well, that's a good point, and that's might what happened with George Springer with the Jays. They got him for $25 million, the highest Blue Jays payroll ever. If they had to play Vladdy, Bichette, Biggio 2 years down the road, they can look at their payroll, what they have in their bank account 3 weeks or 3 years from now and say, okay, we can afford this one now. I get that. My only gripe is that the Players Association and the owners are saving themselves because nobody ever has a grievance against a guy making 38 million. But why isn't there a cap on what a guy can make? But on the back end, they're saying, well, let's keep this guy down for 7 years. Like the Players Association agrees to that deal. Am I wording that improperly? The Players Association says
No. Oh yeah, with that, like they're signed on. Like this, they knew like the parameters of it, and I imagine at the time they didn't know how it would be exploited, but they had to know, and it's just something that they give up on. It's a bargaining chip on these things. It's far beyond our pay scale. But like, okay, we'll give you this, but then you give us that, and like, which would be guaranteed contracts after the 7th year or something like that.
That's why I'm saying, it's such a huge bargaining ploy that the owners hold over the players' heads. And so who runs the Players Association? It obviously ain't a guy who's making league minimum. Like the guys who are the team reps for every team, they aren't making league minimum. So isn't it somewhat hypocritical for them to say, well, that's right. We'll give you 7 years. You get arbitration every year, and you'll get an incremental raise. But I'm still going to be making $38 million a year.
On the same token, though, too, Major League Baseball might be the only professional sports organization that runs its own minor leagues, right? Like NHL to a point, but you think about like how many teams is in a baseball team system, right? So you got the big team, you got for sure a AAA franchise, you got a AA, and you might share a AA, and then you have a single A and a rookie league. Like you're running 5 teams. You're paying 5 teams a player.
A couple teams this year got contracted, but you're right. Yeah, 100%, absolutely.
And then like for years of service, I don't know how that works for years in the minors, and then like so like you're developing this player. Like, and I get it. There's blue chippers, but there's also not blue chippers, and now these guys have jobs too. And so maybe on that end of the negotiating tool, it's like that's why it's once you sign your contract, 7 years, like or whatever, like I don't know the numbers. And then if you come to the league, make your major league debut X number of games before you become an unrestricted free agent because we developed you. And I get that. That's fair.
I do to an extent. I just don't like how well, let's look at Tatis Jr.'s contract. Why did the Padres decide, well, let's give this guy 230 or 340 million, whatever it was, over 17 years? Why don't, obviously the money's there.
Well, no, and like, well, there's 2 points I want to bring up to that one. 10 years from now, what our salary is going to be? This might be an actual steal of a deal, and he'll be 32 years old, which is a baseball as a hitter. Those are your prime years, 29 to 33.
Yeah.
Like,
so what it makes that contract might have been $50 million instead of 34 or 38, whatever he's getting.
Exactly. Exactly. Like 10 years is a mighty long time. And
oh, lost you for a second there. Our flawless night went a little sideways there. I totally don't agree with you on things, Dave.
People talking how the Padres are spending so much money. It's because San Diego, every corporate account they don't have to share anything with the San Diego Chargers anymore.
Yeah.
And then so there's just a lot more local money, corporate money, like all that kind of all the good accounts are coming right to them on a local level. Well, and it gives them some money.
I would say that they were getting a lot more money just in those jersey sales, but since I've learned that jersey sales get spread throughout the league, because those things got to be worth at least 340 sheets a year.
Well, we'll see when one makes the wall at Yankee Tavern North.
There we go. I might have to pick one up someday. It's such a hard thing because you see these guys come out of the minors and they play for 3 or 4 years, and they're supposed to be the next coming of Christ, and then they turn out to not be. When do you drop the wallet and say, here's the checkbook? Because like Tatis Jr., 2 years, is he going to be like we talked about last week? Is he going to be what's a successful career for this cat? Is he half as good as your favorite shortstop, Derek Jeter? Is that a successful career?
Okay, so like let's just look at comparables.
Where's the return on investment of these guys?
Okay, well, like now you're gambling a bit because he might be the next Ken Griffey Jr., right? A lot of swagger.
Yeah.
Play like smiling, having fun.
Absolutely.
You know who else is an exciting? Like as an outfielder, outfielders seem to last a little bit longer than the infielders. Like that Josh Donaldson, like he's still in the league, but I don't know how effective he is anymore.
Well, because he gets really good sponsorship from the president of the Josh Donaldson fan club. So that's why he's still in the league. Josh Donaldson.
Okay.
Yeah.
So he votes a lot. Like say Bryce Harper, like I never dug that kid's action. I don't know. He's not doing overly well in Philadelphia anymore.
Like that's the thing. Like, where's the return on the investment?
But like Trout, like look at Trout's now signed two $250 million deals, right? And he just like, what if he's Trout? Like, would that have been like if they would have signed Trout to a 15-year contract, and when he was 22, that obviously would have played out well for the Angels.
Yeah,
but they just suck.
No, I just like to know, like you take a gamble on these big contracts, and they're smarter than you and I and how this all works out, and there must be something happens, and like I look at like when back in 2009 when the Yankees signed AJ Burnett to an obscene amount of money for a couple of years, but they won a World Series, not because of Burnett, but Burnett had one start in that World Series that won them the World Series. Like I think it was game 5. Is that $80 million investment for $20 million a year for 4 years? Is that one World Series? Is that enough? Must be, you know, and then it's also a contract you can trade. Like,
But you can't for nothing else in baseball, you have to sign somebody if for nothing else than to prevent your opponents from signing that person.
Well, that was originally what I was saying, like with the way the I don't want to say collusion, but the way they can hold a player down in the minors and not pay him. So is that a way for the owners, and not having these kids get to free agency in their first 3 years or 4 years? Is that a way of the owners saving themselves from the owners by giving too much money to the next up and comer for like, what if Tatis Jr. was on an actual free agent? What would the Yankees, Dodgers, Washington tends to spend a lot of money. What would they have given him? Like, would San Diego not have a chance?
Well, once again, apparently, like they're only $10 million, $20 million beneath the salary cap right now. Like they're spending some serious dough. And then, so like let's not pretend this is a small market payroll anymore.
They're not.
They are not fucking around at all with the checkbooks.
No,
and then so Good for them. They're taking a run, and then that must be really exciting for the San Diego fan base.
Well, that's the thing. Is they're spending a lot of money. Are they going to be better than the Dodgers? Because before you do anything, you got to get out of your division.
Well, look at all they've taken care of one. They understand this, right? Like it's a 5-year process. Like the Dodgers have been good for 8 years now.
Yeah.
So it's coming to it's coming to an end.
Close.
It always does.
Kershaw,
it always does.
Look at him. He's 33, 34 years old now, I think. And yeah, who knows?
But like a power pitcher like him, when it goes, it goes.
Yeah.
Right? Like
he can. No Nolan Ryan. He ain't going to pitch till he's 50. Right?
No chance. No.
It's going to be interesting to watch the baseball season. It's coming upon us. Watch some Pac-12 games this weekend. There's actual spring training games happening, which will be fun to watch. My MLB subscription came through, which everybody just logs into. Dave, I'll get you the password later on if you want it. Everybody else seems to have it across this great land of ours, but it's coming. Podcast sounds better tonight. Once again, we did a little research. The producer did some producing, and for that, we're very thankful. Comparing athletes of years gone by is it'll never stop, and you can't compare them because the athletes today are just they're just flat out more fit, bigger, faster, stronger, and it's just fact. LeBron James, he spends $1 million on his body a year with supplements and training and everything else, and that's something that I'm going to put money on that Babe Ruth didn't. And when you compare franchises, we talked just off air. The Tampa Bay Lightning won the Stanley Cup last year. They're bigger, faster, stronger than the 78 Canadians who won a Stanley Cup. So you can't compare it. But a fun comparison would be to say, let's say that if both teams had the same fitness and the skill level, I guess it's a really hard thing to do, Dave. Is there a sport that you could compare yesteryear to today better than others? Simple little glitch here. We were home free almost, we thought, but Dave, I'll repeat the question once again. We lost a little bit of contact there. Internet issues here at the Maple Leaf Lounge. Is there a sport that you could compare eras to more so than others?
Without a doubt, I think that sport would be baseball. Like, because when we were talking and like kind of the parameters of our conversation and that we can compare eras, I would love to see Randy Johnson try and strike out Ted Williams.
Yeah.
Like he could hit anything. I read some about Ted Williams. Just a quick thing. Like he was such a good hitter. They put pine tar in his bat because he said he could see the ball hitting the bat. And they said, well, you can't. And then he hit the ball, and like they covered the bat with pine tar, and he hit the ball, and he's like, one seam. He goes, I got both back ones. And then like he would tell the guy, and he was right. And there'd be pine tar marks on the ball. Like to have that kind of bat speed, to hit 400 in any league, I'd like to see him up against today's pitching.
Another guy that could hit the ball like that is off topic a little bit, but Edgar Martinez with the Mariners, there was the same kind of deal. Calgary Cannon, great Edgar Martinez. There was the same kind of deal. They would put colors on the baseball, and he would say yellow, blue. Like he's the kind of guy there's all-time hitters that can just hit. And I think you're right with the looking over the eras. Guys can hit or they can't.
Yeah, and guys can throw the ball or they can't. Like more guys can throw harder. More guys pitch? Yeah. Like there's more flame, but like how many pitchers are there?
Like being Canadian, we follow it a lot more in hockey. I don't think you can compare the 2000s and the 2020s. Geez, we're getting old, Dave. You can't compare teams from the 2020s to the teams of the 70s and the 80s it's just different skill set and everything else. But you could compare 80s teams to 70s teams a little bit. And you look at the Hall of Famers that played for Montreal, and you hear about Ken Dryden, you hear about Guy Lafleur and Guy Chouinard, and you go to Gretzky, Curry, Messier, and those guys. And then the Oilers, I believe their first playoff win was 82 when they beat the Habs in 5 games or 6 games. And it kind of put the Habs in the background a little bit. And then the Oilers were to come through. Could there be a coming of age thing with the older generation to the new generation that helps out a younger franchise like that?
Without a doubt. Like I think Carolina rolled their Stanley Cup appearance to like a fairly dedicated fan base considering their location. I'm under the understanding that both Dallas and Tampa have fairly dedicated fan bases. Of course it helps and it buys you longevity and a toehold in the market. Is that what we were talking about?
A little bit.
Okay.
A little bit.
I forgot the tangent. I did have a point, but I kind of got sidetracked.
14, 20, we're into our 3rd or 4th beer out here. That's sometimes you start thinking about everything else. If you could compare to, let's go 2 baseball teams, like you said, and teams we watched over the years, and you're not a Jays fan by any means, but we watched them being from Canada. It was on the forefront. Compare the 2015-16 Jays that were going to almost win the World Series, had some good chances, to teams that won the World Series in 92 and 93. If you had those 2 teams play each other, who'd win?
Oh, I'm Whamco all the way, man.
Well, they had Rick.
Yeah, but he's not even a part of Whamco. I think wasn't Ricky? He was on the second team.
He was on
yeah. They said
they actually spelled Whamco with an H in the Whamco in the
yeah. But yeah, no, and again, they traded Dave Winfield for they didn't trade him, but like they let go of Dave Winfield and then they took Ricky.
Awesome. Yeah. It's time to go.
Yeah, Ricky used to, but anyways, no, I'd be all team Whamco on that one. I found the Jays team of 5 years ago, like, or whenever that Bautista thing was, I found them very unlikable. I didn't like anybody on that team.
Felt the same way, but I quite liked it for the fact that living in Medicine Hat at the time, I quite liked it that the city got involved watching baseball a lot more. And
I'll agree with that all the way.
And if you go down to the local establishment and watch a game, there are people like, hey, this is great. And people are watching games. And I thought, like, being a baseball fan, especially in dog days of August where no one's watching the games, I loved it personally. Like, there's one place down, it became a baseball bar, and it's not that at all anymore. Local, it's called Local. And it became a baseball bar where there was always Jays fans watching games and everything else. And it was a lot of fun. It's funny you say that because you have a disdain for Kelly Gruber, but the 2015 team you say is worse with the team with Josh Donaldson, who was an MVP.
Oh, I never hated Kelly Gruber. I don't know where you got that from. I was a big fan of the team when they went the first time.
Sorry, Pat Border. Sorry.
I don't have a disdain for him. I just don't like. He's a World Series MVP. That's the thing that makes me scratch my head about that dude. He's a World Series MVP.
Yeah, it's you go through that lineup, like who played first base, Olerud, and then who played first base for those years? They don't, like, in the 15.
Well, I remember, yeah, Olerud did, and then Joe Carter. They put John Olerud, who hit like 385 for the year. He actually was flirting with 400.
Yeah.
And then he's in the National League Parks. He was on the bench, and they put Joe Carter at first.
Crazy. you look at other franchise, other teams, and who would beat who. Basketball is another one. I think you could kind of compare it to, because defense, but not you can't go from 50s to 90s. You just can't. Like
Well,
you just can't.
well, could you imagine any of the NBA playing against the Pistons of today? I'd like to see that, just even though I hated that Pistons team.
Yeah.
Like that was rough basketball.
And now the greatest player ever to be playing right now, he gets blown on. He falls over and he's diving all over the place.
He's such a flopper. And I don't understand why he does that. He doesn't have to do
You
that.
don't have to do that. And I don't understand that. Like if
You're so fucking good and you're still doing this cheap high school shit.
if you're worried about losing a game by a regular season game in what month we were in, February, by 2 points, and you need that free throw, be better throughout the fucking game.
Well, but he's doing it in game 21 of a COVID season.
Well, that's what I'm getting
sake.
Yeah, be better. If you need to do that crap to win a game in this time of year, be better throughout the game so you don't have to do that.
Yeah, or just don't.
On that note, and we'll change the subject completely, but on the same note about everything is obviously better back then. We talked about that before. Would they have gotten away with that crap 20 years ago? Guys were held more accountable back then, I think.
Yeah, there was more of a machismo thing too.
Like in hockey and baseball and basketball, I don't know so much about football. Like guys would get hammered, getting laid out, whatever, different ways of hitting. But guys, if they pulled that crap back then, you'd have the Hatcher brothers fucking like, dude, I'm gonna pitchfork you over into the third deck. Just
yeah.
I think it's right, but were players held more accountable 20 years ago, 30 years ago than they are now?
I just think the flopping is just nothing that ever really occurred to him. It's just not something we do.
Well,
who was a faker? Like try and think of a renowned faker from back in the day.
Who was a famous there? Like Ken Linsman, maybe, but he was also
but yeah, he was a pass. Like he was in your face, and and when you took that swing at him, then he'd overreact.
Simple point, Dave. There was no such thing as a diving penalty back 20 years ago because there wasn't diving.
Yeah, that's also exactly, without a doubt. And there was no cry for it either.
Yeah, there wasn't a need to have a phantom penalty because it didn't happen on a regular basis.
Right.
And is sport better? Okay, here it is. Let's not go 70s. Let's not go 80s. Because I think there were kind of both bullshit eras in sport. What's the golden era of sport?
Oh, no. Well, probably. I don't know, the 80s, there were some great performances. I would say, for myself personally, when I was most invested and really enjoyed and was really getting into being a sports fan, I would say the 90s, or 87 and 97, if you wanted 10 years.
You had some dynasties. You had some of the greatest players ever play the game. You seen some miraculous things. You had Cal Ripken doing his thing. You had
Gretzky, Montana,
home run chases, Super Bowl champions.
Mike Tyson
with boxing. I think the golden era of sport was the 90s, and I'm sure somebody who's got 20 years on us will tell us something different for sure. But you look in the history books and you don't see a lot of history.
I don't know what you mean by that, because I am a bit of a buff. I get lost in that's what I miss. I used to buy the sports almanac every year, and I would just read it. Like that was my toilet book, and I would just read it. And I don't buy those books anymore because I got a phone. But I should make a point of getting sports trivia in print and reading it again, because I love that.
Well, that's the one thing I dislike about not flying and traveling and going places anymore. Because I would still buy a Sports Illustrated print edition and read it on the airplane, cover to cover, back and forth every time. And the one article that always I loved was the "Where Are They Now" on the back. Where are they? Like, and it's
You had the 5 kids in the front,
yeah.
up and comers, and on the back, it's the "Where Are They
The
Now?"
up and
Yeah.
comers and the where are they coming to? So being the end, it was a nostalgia roll or what's happening, but you can never compare. And when people try to compare athletes of the day, it's an impossible task because
Oh no, without a doubt, especially like today, and I think we touched upon it. Like Tom Brady just won a Super Bowl MVP on the at the same age where like Elway, Aikman, and Marino all got elected into the Hall of Fame.
yeah,
Like it's just like the science and the workout and body preservation is such a science now that
they aren't smoking cigarettes
it's a different athlete.
drinking 15 beers during the off season by any means. Like it's not a thing anymore.
Yeah, yeah, Tuesday ain't pizza night when you're a professional athlete anymore.
My God,
It's boiled chicken with poached eggs on multi-grain quinoa toast.
when on that page before we go on to the next topic. On that note, Dave, you're 51 and COVID's over. We're going to pubs. We're having a good time. When are you going to not be wing guy and become fish and chip guy? For this,
Oh, I've been fish and chip guy forever, dude. I love fish and chips. That's one of one of my rules of pub food is like, I eat this shit because I don't have a deep fryer at home. So I love chicken wings and I love fish and chips and I love French fries. But because you can't make that shit properly at home without stinking out
when
your
are you
house.
expecting the rest of us to join you for fish and chip night? When they said because it's what
I've been sorry. I thought you meant just as an order. Oh, I completely apologize. I'm all wing night. I've never gone to fish and chip night anywhere.
that's
And I don't
okay. How many more
anticipate it.
years you got left in you before it's fish and chip night with the boys, as opposed to wing night with the boys?
What if they do it on a Monday night or a Thursday night? Why the fuck wouldn't you?
There you go.
A lot quieter, and then like we'll probably have like some kind of listening devices so you can play it loud for our ears at the table.
There you go. Yeah. 777 for fish and chips.
With one draft beer or something
One
like
draft
that.
beer and 777 for the smallest draft beer you ever seen.
We're a demographic that's getting older. I don't know if the young why not? Like I would prefer that to Shank some days probably right now.
There you go. Anyways, it's a funny thing. It's a funny thing. Anyways, good show. A little small glitch compared to what we've had in the past. Make sure you tell your friends and everybody else about the 1420 podcast with our new and improved 1420 podcast. Sounds great tonight. We're going to try to edit some of this stuff tonight that we have. We're recording on Zoom. Maybe put some up on Facebook or Twitter. We'll have you'll see them out there. Make sure you talk to your friends about the show because it's one of our better ones in a long time. Not that any have been bad. This one's tops it off a little bit, and I think we're a little better spirits because of the sound quality. After a short little break, I had a beer and Dave had a beer, and I think Dave maybe had a cigarette or two, and we're back live and for your listening pleasure. One of my favorite parts of the week, and we've discussed this in the past, and they get a lot of laughs and everything else, and I laugh more than most about them. Dave, give me this week's Would You Rather.
Would you rather be a ball boy at the US Open tennis tournament or a ball spotter at the US Open golf tournament?
How old am I?
18.
18. I'm a ball boy at the U.S. Open tennis tournament. There's no doubt in my mind. The where you're sitting, and not so much the ball boy like Kramer was at the net and on Seinfeld, but the guy getting the balls on the back end for serves that go wide.
And then he just holds his hand up and like he's waiting to throw the ball in for the serve kind of thing.
The reason why, Dave, is because most of those tennis players have very nice, firm bodies. Not that you're picking up a tennis player at all when you're 18 years old and they're multimillionaires or anything else, and you're just the ball boy at the U.S. Open. But the view must be just fantastic.
So you're talking on a creep factor is why you're going to do that?
Absolutely, man.
Oh, I am so 100% disappointed on that.
Absolutely. An 18-year-old ball boy at the U.S. Open looking at Anna Kournikovas' assets. Absolutely. Rather than crawling through the bushes for Tiger Woods' golf ball, it's not even comparable, man.
Oh, like the creep factor never once even entered into my mind.
You're getting old.
I'm a fan of the sport though, man. I like the creep factor. Like you can creep on that, like in the stands and stuff like that. I get it, but no, I'm a little disappointed in that, in your reasoning for your answer tonight.
Like crawling into the bush to find a guy's ball. Go, but you hit it there. Go get it yourself, for Christ's sakes.
Yeah, I know. I totally understand that, but also once again, it's the best of the world, and like it depends on your placement, obviously. Like, but you would when you're not looking for balls, you got a front row seat to the best golfers in the world walking by you.
Yeah, when I'm not looking for tennis balls either, I'm looking at something pretty good when I'm 18 years old.
You see, but then you probably would have got canned because you were
18.
Yeah, I did say 18, but you probably would have got canned because you would have been leering as opposed to doing your job. They'd be like, you would be the guy. Like you would make the highlight reel.
The CBS cameras are like, look at this cat just glaring at this. My God.
You have to be reminded to throw your balls, and like they're forgetting. Like you get replaced after like the second set now.
And dribbling your ball to her, not just throwing them to her, so I can get a little bit of cleavage. Oh yeah, a creepazoid for sure.
Constantly adjusting your shorts.
Definitely a creepazoid. Age of 18, I'm chasing tennis balls, throwing them to hot girls, not looking after Fuzzy Zeller's golf ball in the bush.
Well, we're gonna drop this subject and just say I've never been more disappointed by one of your would you rather answers.
Well, Dave, I think you've been more disappointed in me before. But anyways, funny little thing I saw earlier today, and I don't know why I didn't pick up on it years and years ago. The Major League Baseball symbol hasn't changed in my lifetime. Dave, and I want to do a giveaway. I got a prize I have set up for this. You look at that emblem. What hand does the guy on that emblem bat? Is he a righty or a lefty?
He's a righty. This is taken from his back. This is taken from behind the batter.
100%.
I'm trying to picture him as a lefty here now. Yeah, 100%. Like the ball should be nowhere there. Like the ball doesn't make sense for where the batter and his bat is situated. Because he should that might be an HBP right there.
So you got it right.
But nonetheless, he's batting.
I'm very sure about this.
That's my answer. Like I realize I'm being set up here.
No, you're not.
But
he's. It's a long-standing question. I did some research on it. It's a long-standing question. Is your righty lefty? The hand placement. It's very well done. The artist. Anyways, Dave. For people who listen, we're going to pick a date in middle of March, March 15th. Dave, good enough. What's a date?
March 15th sounds good.
What's the date in March that we're going to be recording on? March 16th. It's a Tuesday.
The day before St. Patty's Day.
March 16th. You guys have your chance to get into. I'll put the what the giveaway is on the 1420 podcast social media accounts. What Dave said, because that makes you want to have to listen. What Dave said, what the answer was, put it in the DMs and the PMs and get the hotline, whatever it is. What Dave said, what the MLB guy, what hand he bats. Dave said righty. He didn't sound exactly sure about it, but we'll run with that. But he's looking at it right now on the Zoom. I can sense it right now.
But that is my answer. There's still no way that's not my answer.
With a right-hander, and there isn't a right or wrong answer at all. Like it's been a long-standing debate for sure. Anyways, Major League Baseball spring training game starts Sunday. The Yankees and the the Jays play on Sunday morning. Dave, I'm going to give you a few questions here. If you sat in the stands for a spring training game, because the games don't matter whatsoever, so the conversations would flow a little bit more than they would during a game that mattered. I'll give you some questions. I want to hear your answers, and then we'll debate on them a little bit. Sound good?
I'm ready to go.
Here we go. First one, and this one I think is it's a tough one. What would be the hardest position in baseball to play?
Back catcher.
Why so?
Toil on the body. You got to be ready to go, like taking your gear, taking off your gear, foul tip, collision to the plate, being able to handle pitchers like them shaking you off. You're setting the defenses. You're the guy that gets to look out there, and you can see if something's wrong before anyone else.
You're a what's the word I'm looking for? Argumentative, as am I.
I don't understand how that's argumentative. Like,
No,
I think the catchers.
No.
Oh, sorry.
The next.
Okay.
If you were a catcher and a pitcher shook you off, what would your response be?
Well, like we've said on the podcast, my favorite movie, one of my favorite movies of all time, is Bull Durham. Can you believe this motherfucker? He's pitching a two-header in the 7th inning, and he's shaking me off.
Shaking me off.
Here comes the deuce, is what he says to
me. I agree, man. I agree. Throw that.
Man, he teed off on that like he knew I was throwing it. He did.
I told him. Next question, Dave. How do I word this properly? Okay, well, here it is. You're going to a game, you and Jasper. Should an adult fan bring a ball glove to a game?
Not to a Bulls game. Not to a Bulls game. Yeah, to a ball game, yes. Like, so, like the games that I've brought my son to are Bulls. But if we were as a one, it'd be a fun thing to do. I would not do it, but I would forgive a father for being with his family and carrying a ball glove.
I personally think if the father and son, uncle, nephew,
whoever wants to bring a glove, like the girls,
I think,
the mom.
I think that if an adult and a child go to the game together, you can. But if dude walks in by himself with a mitt,
or even on the date with mom or the girlfriend or whoever he's trying to woo, no. Children have to be involved.
So if the producer and I went to the game together, if I wouldn't, if she brought a glove, what if she brought a glove?
If she wants to, yeah. See, this is a double standard. You got to be careful of these traps. But I don't think any adult cannot bring a glove without a child to a ball game. No adult may.
You wouldn't catch it with a glove, but that's just looking over there, just evil eye on me. Quite a terrible thing. Is it okay to do the wave?
Maybe, maybe. I've done the wave, and I've been part of the wave. I took quite a hiatus from the wave. Um,
Is that another
but
thing? If there's a youth,
my son loves the wave.
so if there's
Yeah,
a
so
youth
I
in attendance, you can do the wave.
yes. And you know what? There is nothing wrong with a wave like at a good point, but the wave for the sake of the wave, I'm not getting behind that.
Yeah, I'm not a
On
wave.
the subsection B, do you ever do YMCA?
The last time I did it, Dave, I was actually I did it a little bit on the field in a WCBL game a couple years ago. My hands didn't go above my head, but I was kind of doing it a little bit for the crowds, and they were kind of laughing a little bit. And the last time I fully did it was my first time at Yankee Stadium, because the grounds crew does it in the 6th inning when they're doing the field, and they do the one, and I joined in. It's a tradition, and that's the only time I've ever done it. So
Okay, yeah, because that is
so 2013 was the last time I fully was involved in the wave.
and it was a special occasion.
Yeah. I don't
Okay.
do it
Now,
on a Tuesday at the Bulls game.
no, there is a time, and I think like as we age, there is a time and place for anything, and like the YMCA and the wave, but very specific time and place.
Yeah, there's got to be a certain crowd and everything else. There's no doubt
Yes.
about that. I think we talked about this last week. Peanuts or Cracker Jacks? And when's the last time you had Cracker Jacks?
Couldn't tell you when.
Yeah.
Because caramel corn is not such a thing. Like you got the kernels and that white cheddar and shit like that. And I am more of a savory guy, so well, there's that really good big huge bag you can get at Costco. Can't remember, but it has like caramel and cheddar. It's popcorn's such a good popcorn is everywhere now. Whereas Cracker Jacks and what was that pink elephant popcorn? Remember that?
Circus something. What, like there was
Yeah, it was in a white box with a black elephant. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it was pink and it was pretty tasty. I was pretty excited to get my hands on that as a kid too.
Yeah. What was that called? I think it was Pink Elephant or Circus something. I can't remember. Whatever.
It was circus thing, but yeah, pink elephant. Anyways.
Looking back, now you like everybody now has a different look, not their own personal look in a baseball uniform. Are you a fan of the pants at the knees with the stirrups, or the long pants can't see the socks?
I appreciate both, but I hate it when it's done bad. I hate the pajama bottoms. Like when it's just saggy, like some pictures they look like jammies.
Yeah.
Like it's rolling up at the ankles. I like to see some syrup, but I'm not, whatever you want to do. I'm glad baseball lets the players kind of tailor their uniform to what they want to do.
Like your favorite shortstop of all time, Derek Jeter. He always looked good out there. The cuff was always proper. It was always fantastic. He was just that was a good looking man on the field. It's not my fault that he's your favorite shortstop.
What about Ricky and his stirrups? Because he had the stirrups and he rocked them stirrups.
Rick's stirrups were something else. They
made him look faster.
The way he pulled them up. Two more. I got two more. Are bat flips cool?
Once again, dependent, time and place. Like going back to that Jace team, I didn't like that the infamous Batista bat flip. That was douchebaggery at its finest, I think.
Dave, I thought that as well when it first happened, but the emotion of that inning, how it all rolled about with the Russell Martin hit it into I think Shinju Chu's arm, and the ball rolled away, and the beers getting thrown at Sky Dome, and the emotion of that game, I thought it was the worst thing in the world because I'm a baseball purist. I am. It's awful because it's stupid, actually. Like, you look back at things. I don't like it because I'm old. That's how people think. But I like looking back on the emotion of that inning. The Bautista bat flip, I hate Bautista. Don't get me wrong. I don't like. I can't stand the guy. But the emotion of that inning, I can kind of justify it a little bit.
Sure, I'll give you that. I'm not going to hold it against you because you think about that.
Yeah.
I think it was douchebaggery, and I always will.
Yeah.
You know why? Because he's a douchebag.
Yeah.
Right.
If
And so, but like back to the bat flip, I don't mind like a little bit of flair tossing the bat and stuff like that. But like the over the top, this
shake and twist down the line.
Yeah, and he just let it like pop out of his hands like bat flip. Like he didn't drop it.
He snap his fingers. Like Rick could do no wrong, hey?
Yeah, and the kid Griff had a nice little bat flip too, but it wasn't.
The 1420 podcast, also known as the Ricky Henderson Fan Club podcast. I love that guy. Anyways, the very last one, and we touched on it briefly in the past about broadcasters who bring up certain things throughout the game. It happens in hockey. They talk about shutouts. Vin Scully said it the best. I'll give your thoughts on it. Should you ever say the words in the stands, because a broadcaster is millions of people, should you ever say the words in the stands, you sit in the bleachers, no hitter?
Nope.
Never.
No.
100% agree. 100%.
Like why? Like just why? Like why be the person that might like I'm not superstitious, but I have mild superstition. I knock on wood all the time. I try not to jinx the thing, even though I could think about it all the time. And it's sports, particularly, like, it's where I do carry a little bit of superstition, which makes sports fun. I'm not going to be the guy to fuck that no hitter up because I said no hitter.
If you're sitting, let's say that game you guys all came to it at Henderson, aka Spitz, a couple of years back. Now, geez, man, it's a couple of years ago now. All of a sudden, there was 6 or 7 of you guys, and then plus my parents and the Davises, and a lot of that. There was a lot of people out there. Let's just say if there was a no hitter being thrown in that game. If it went to the 5th or the 6th, do you lean over to your buddy and go, "Hey man, this guy's got a no-hitter going"? Like what's the
someone would have someone would have said that to me before I would have said it to anybody. That's guaranteed. And then I don't know, it's been a while. So, like I'd probably, what would I say? I'd say probably, hey, you're not supposed to say anything about it. Or did I just play dumb and say didn't notice?
Yeah. No, it's a thing. Like like what inning does somebody finally go, "Hey man, this guy's got it"?
I'm a geek though. Like when I'm watching a ball game, I know and like okay, I don't have to. I watch for the first hit.
Mm-hmm.
Like if I come to a game, if I'm channel surfing and I see a game and there's 6th inning and it's a no hitter, I'm gonna watch that game. Because I want to see the no hitter, and then.
Well, we talked about last week that, or a couple weeks back when they put it on the app. It says no hitter alert, so you tune in, and as soon as you tune in, there's fucking hit every time. Pretty much
it's my fault.
Work as soon as everybody, because then you send the message, "Hey, no hitter alert," and blah blah blah, and then there's a hit before you can even tune the game on. No, it's gonna be interesting. It's the. Going to a baseball.
These young pitchers, back to that point. These young pitchers who might be familiar with this app now and everything, like, would that be in their heads? Like, if I make it to the 7th inning, there's going to be 1 million people watching this game as I'm pitching for Milwaukee against Tampa Bay.
Why would I tune into that? Like, I'm a baseball dork, but on a Saturday afternoon, I'm watching a different game. I'm not watching Milwaukee and frickin' Tampa.
Yeah, but that's not your
Those
reason
guys
to
here.
watch that game.
Because those guys, they have devices. There's apps going on in the dugout, and then downstairs and everything else. It's just like, oh, there was 40,000 people watching this game, including television. Now all of a sudden, there's 4 million watching this.
Yeah.
That's a lot, man. That's a lot. The butthole must just clench right up.
Well, to know about it, right? Like, and I don't know I don't know what that affects. It's just an observation. I thought.
Yeah, no, it's fun. Anyways, Dave, good show tonight. I really appreciate the patience you've had with me to get this thing kind of straightened on the straight and narrow. We had some struggles with it. No, we had bad shows. Just some weren't as good as others.
We had bad audios.
Bad audios. The content's never bad. Never ever. Well, I shouldn't say the content's never bad. We said some stupid things over the months. Anyways, that was show.
All killer, no filler.
Yeah, that was show 68. There's a lot more coming out your way. Big plans this weekend, my friend?
No, just we'll let Mother Nature decide what we get up to and where we do it. But yeah, things going well in Lethbridge, Alberta.
When you putting when you putting in the bedding flowers in and stuff? We're getting to March this week. Right?
Oh Jesus, that's not till May.
Oh, you don't go into April?
Oh God, no, it would die. Like we got no chance, man. I mean, that's a May long weekend, sure.
That's zero faith in humanity, my friend.
I have no. You have no idea what you're talking about. How many years have you been putting out bidding out plants?
Last year when we had to play there, we planted some plants and things that I have no idea, man. Me planting things and planting buds is like putting Budweisers in the garage. I don't know. I have no idea.
If you do it before May long weekend, you're
asking
literally. Yeah, you might as well just plant 20s in the soil.
20s. Yeah, back when the world loved oil, they were hungies, my friend. Anyways, any closing remarks, my friend?
Nope, not at all. I hope everybody listening tonight, sorry once again for the shit audio. Frustrated me as well. We're on the right track now, I hope, and sooner or later we're gonna do this together again and take all this technology out of the question.
Yeah, there's 2 more steps that got to be hit. I'm going to wake the producer up. She's having a little nappy poo right now because it's going to be a long night for her to make sure this is all set up right. If I click the mouse twice right from here on in, we're good. Anyways, here's hoping it all turned out well, because I think it was a really good show. We'll have some laughs, and make sure you guys talk to your friends about the show. It was a fun one tonight. There's some better ones coming up. Everything's on full bore. Spring and summer coming up, and there'll be a lot of good times to talk. Anyways, take care of each other, but more importantly, take care of yourself, because we need you around. Dave, keep your stick on the ice,
and don't swing at any high pitches.
There you go. Have a good weekend, folks. We'll talk to you on Saturday.